The Sciforror Film Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Sciforror Film Podcast. I am Andy Walker and I am here as always with my son Scott. Hello, Scott.
Hello.
How you diddly doodling?
Sorry, pardon.
How you diddly doodling?
Yeah, not bad. Just so I got a bit of a headache, but been a bit of a weird couple of days. So everything's good. I'm nice to get back into the sort of my normal flow of doing sod all during the day.
No, that's cool. This is a special edition of the Sciforror Film Podcast, in which we will be reporting back from the 4 days of the Romford Horror Film Festival.
Yeah.
Which we were privileged once again. Thank you very much to Spencer Hawkin to have press passes for. Thank you, Spencer, and thank you to him and all his crew for putting on a great festival.
Yes, it surprised me as well how it's not surprising. I don't mean to say that. How big the festival was and how smoothly it ran on. There's teams not that big.
No.
To other ones that we've seen and compared to other places, and it amazes me that the stuff they pull off every year and how smoothly everything runs, and there's not a lot of them.
And it's got bigger every year, and this year the Saturday especially was absolutely solid with people, and it was really, really good. So that's what we want. I want to see more and more. Okay, so I was thinking that the way we should do this, we'll tackle one day at a time, and we'll report back sort of like, I don't know. Do you want to do I think it'd be easier if we do one each, so we sort of like do I can report back on the film I saw, and then you can report back on the film you saw, and we can.
Yeah, obviously the only film we're only about to do half of them on a Friday because due to me being stupid and eating something really dodgy on the Thursday night, I ended up with a bit of a stomach ache, so wasn't able to be there for Friday. But obviously you were.
There are some films that we didn't get to see, but you're never going to get to see everything.
No, there was a lot, but we tried our best to see all of them, and there was stuff. It's almost getting to the point where it's now becoming almost more than a two-person job.
Yeah.
There was so much going on this year with the films going on, the stalls, the people that were there, the different interaction things, the quick Q&As, the chats, talks that they were doing. It was so much going on, and it was great to be part of it. But it's hard just to be able to go. Yeah, we can be there for the films because then we missed out on other things. So it's trying to make sure we got a sort of variation of all of it. So we did miss out on a few films, but we know the gist of them, and
we will mention them anyway, and we will
go
through what we did. Okay, so the very first day, which was the Thursday, or as they have it in the program, Thirst Day. I went in to see the film, the very first film, at 11 in the morning, which was there was a short film called Parallel Universes, the sequel. Now, I don't know Parallel Universes, the sequel, because I don't know if there was another one. If there was, I haven't seen it. Now, it's a short film. It's a great atmosphere to it. Really good use of like silence and sound and music to build up the atmosphere. It is very short. I mean, it's a very short film. I'm not sure exactly what was happening in it, to be interesting, to be honest, but it was very interesting. And it was a bit more sci-fi than horror. I mean, the whole parallel universe thing, it's kind of like lends itself more to sci-fi than horror. But it
Yeah,
was a good film. It was a very good short film, and that was yeah, that was interesting to watch. And that was followed by a classic film of the Medusa Touch, which is it's a great film. I mean, it's a well-known film. Uh, it's again, it's I'm not totally convinced whether it's horror or sci-fi, but it's difficult to tell
yeah,
because you're never quite sure whether he's supposed to be have sci-fi type, telekinesis, or if it's some kind of demon thing. I don't know. It could be classed as a psychological thriller as well. I don't know, but it's a great film. It was fantastic to see it on the big screen because I've seen it before.
yeah,
But what's interesting is that the time it was made, there was no CGI or anything like that. It was, all of the films and all of the stuff in it was done in miniatures or in real sort of effects. And so it was really good to see what they did and see it on the big screen like that. It
yeah,
was quite incredible, to be honest. I'm amazed still at how good they made it look. There's a whole scene at the end where Westminster Cathedral um, collapses in on itself on top of people. And it's all done with like physical effects, and there's no CGI, no green screen stuff really. It's just
mm,
all, and it's so well done. It really is.
yeah. I've got. Oh, got to admit, watching like the stuff we watched over this weekend and other films, especially a few lately, I have realised that much as we've gone on leaps and bounds with the whole CGI and special effect things, like the
Yeah.
it makes me almost appreciate more the stuff like in these classic films where it was all. Don't get me wrong, there are a few which are god awful, but there are. It makes me appreciate more the good ones when you've got all physical effects and all genuine people's reactions and the reactions because that's what they had to work with and how well a lot of it still works.
Yeah, yeah. It was really great to watch that on the big screen. I mean, I'm happy that I went into that one and saw that.
Yeah.
So, what did you do? You went in at 12. What did you go to see?
Yeah, I went into a film. I was started an hour later, so I went into um, to their screen to watch a short called the Oval. Sorry, I'm trying to read that wrong. The Oval Portrait,
Right. Yeah.
which was actually um, the director's take, or the director and writer's take of um, his take and his sort of telling of an Edgar Allan Poe story.
Yeah.
Um, and I've got to admit, for the woman, because they had a Q and A with him afterwards, and the stuff he done, he built the set, he built a lot of the bits for him and his son, and it looked amazing. And he changed a few bits because in the story they're meant to be in this room that's filled with all these portraits, and what he did was in his version of it, he took them all down apart from this one, the
Right.
one that the story's about, just to give it that bit more of an effect. And I really, really liked it. The cinematography in it was amazing. Um, the acting on it was very well done. It seemed amazingly done to it. It was a, the set. There had no speech to it really. There wasn't any speech to it at all. But a
Okay.
lot of it was done as a silent film, apart from odd sound effects, and they was used that to do the atmosphere build up. But it was so. It was because I've seen this story. I've read the story before, and it was very interesting to see the fact that Edgar Allan Poe stuff, the fact that everyone goes, oh, "This is exactly what it means," but to see someone take it in a different way and still be able to give that story out and that effect out, I thought was amazing. The atmosphere build up in it was great. That the set design was extraordinary, especially after finding out that he built it, most of it himself,
Yeah.
and a lot of it like that was done. But it was like obviously, as we both know, Edgar Allan Poe stuff's not known for being light and fluffy.
No. Well, yeah.
So, but it was a very, very nice take on his film, on his stories.
Cool.
And I think like there's a few that have been made, but I think this is one of the best I've seen as a portrayal of his stuff.
Okay.
Um, I definitely would like to see more of what can be done for this, but I definitely think I wish that I could. Again, if we can find a way of getting it so you could see it, because it was just such a. It was an inspiration, not an inspiration. It was something. One of the moments. No matter how much I could describe it perfectly, is not going to do it justice because it's just one of those things that the atmosphere and the sounds contrasting it, how it makes you feel, especially being on the big screen and the surround sound and everything, made
Yeah,
it
yeah.
so much better.
Cool.
Um, as for the feature length film,
Yes.
um, it's whether or not I'm going to be able to say this name actually if we're going to put this up on YouTube.
Yeah,
Right?
go on.
But it's
Don't worry about it.
called All Clowns Are Bastards. And I'll go over the bit that I was going to, how I felt. But obviously, you've read the book. For anyone that doesn't like the way it is, the way it was described on the synopsis bit that's in the program that we got, and it says, "All a man-eating killer clown falls in love with a woman and becomes a vegan against his family's best interests." Now, I thought this was very weird just reading it like that, but it's a foreign film, so it's subtitles. So I was trying to pay attention to both things,
Right.
but it had that right mix of humor to it because of the fact that it's the whole vegan side of it of like people going, you need to do this, you need to make things better, and these people, the sort of the killer clowns, it's meant to be the fact that they need to eat meat to survive, especially human meat. They need to do this to survive to keep their appearance and themselves, I keep themselves as they are.
Yeah.
And it's certain digs at certain people. I'm not going to say their names, but it's certain high power political foreign parties that are meant to make comments about the fact that they're actually clowns in disguise.
Right.
Um, and it's all about certain things to do that. And every time that the vegan word's used, a member of this family then gets really especially if it's used by one of the members of the family, gets really ill and really weak, and then one of them passes on, and it happens that way. And I think it's hilarious because it's just the whole thing is basically like the whole fight between it and how he overcomes the fact that he wants to he wants to love someone, he wants to be loved, but he doesn't want to change. He tries changing who he is, and it screws
Yeah.
him up basically. But it's saying it's the blend of humor, and the humor with the gore side of it and the blood side of it and the horror side of it with the humor was mixed amazingly. It was and it's not like it was um like in your face humor. It was definitely a darker side of humor.
Yeah.
Certain things that were said, and I just think it was so well done. And again, the cinematography was amazing. The angles they had on some of the shots and the makeup as well for the clowns and for the actual visual effects and
Mm.
the sort of injuries and stuff like that. I thought was amazing. It just looked so. It There was parts of it where these clowns had to then put makeup on to cover what their thing was, and it was so well done because it looked like it's from the way that I looked at it and the way that I sort of see it. It looked like basically they see that him putting the makeup on as a clown and then sort of rewound it. So as he's then putting on, it looks like he's putting on normal makeup
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
is to put over the top of the clown stuff. But again, it was just so well done and so funny with bits because of the fact is the sort of it's them unexpected moments where things happen and you laugh and you go, "Oh, I shouldn't laugh at that," but it was very well done. I love it, and it's one of the. I'd actually say this is one of the ones that's been up the top of the list the whole weekend for me of films.
Okay. Fair enough. Okay. So after watching those, I went then at 1 o'clock saw the short film showcase one. Okay. So this was a number of short films. And the first one was called Side Dish. Um, and it's a black and white film. This was it was intriguing right from the start. It was very odd, but very good. Um, there's an unexpected twist or two, which in a short film is quite clever to be able to do.
Yeah,
To be able to do that. there's humor in it, but it's not over the top, and it's very odd. It is very odd film. I'm not sure. For me, I'm not sure that it was totally horror,
Okay.
but it is. It's a good short film, and it was well made and looked really good, well acted, and the effects were good and all that sort of thing. Then the second film was called Dead Skin. I really liked this. It was a really good build up
Yeah.
to it. Really, the atmosphere and the way that it built up to what was going to happen, what was happening. Excellent makeup. This woman has this sort of skin rash, and then she kind of like eventually peels the skin off, and it's just sort of like she's got no skin at all, so it's just muscle and
Yeah.
sinew, and it was brilliantly done. The effects were absolutely fantastic. I think it
Mhm.
was really excellent. I think there was a thing called Three. The third film was called Three Baths. Had a very good start and a very interesting idea. It was like about how to get rid of if somebody's got a sort of they're seeing demons and things like that, and how to get rid of them. If they,
Yeah.
what you have to do, and it's about giving them these three baths, which is a very interesting idea. Good effects, really good makeup. It was the cleansing ritual that you go through. The demon was quite good. It was fairly ordinary looking rather than hugely demonic, but it was really well done. And there's a twist at the end because it's like this woman and her sister, and there's a twist right at the end about what happens to them. But it was a really good, and I really liked the effects and that in it. Makeup again really great. Um, the next one, which is what was I could say one of my favourite short films from watching the whole weekend, was
Yeah.
called Trial 22.
Mhm.
Um, really great idea, great makeup, great effects. It's a bit like you're watching part of a bigger film.
Okay.
Because it's kind of like they come into this place which has got like a number 22 on it.
Yeah.
And obviously these people have to then face this trial in this room
Mm.
to get through and out again. But it also had that kind of feel a bit like films like Cube, the very
Oh,
first one, where you
yeah.
don't know what's going on straight away,
Yeah.
and then these things just start happening. There's a demon in this room that they have to kind of, or thing in this room that they have to kind of get past, and
Yeah.
it can't see, but it can hear in everything. So they've got
Okay.
to do everything silently, and it is really good. It really hits really hard, and it's brilliant. I really, really liked it. Great. The effects were fantastic. And the
Yeah.
makeup and everything were really, really good. Um, and the next film, number 5, was called Help Point. Uh, Again, I think it's an excellent film. It's a great idea, uh, great story, great acting, and really good effects. It's like it's set in the tube on the tube system,
Yeah.
and it's about this woman sort of like on the tube late at night, can't get home, and there's Help Point there, and she tries using the Help Point to find out when the next train's going to be.
Yeah.
And it all goes crazy. There you go. Number 6, the sixth film was called Rain, Rain, Go Away. Now, I had a bit of a problem with watching this, um,
Okay.
not because there was a problem with the film. It was a really good film. It was well made. The atmosphere was fantastic. It was had strangeness to it. Had really good effects, but it's about the very real horror of living with childhood trauma, that sort of
Yeah.
abuse, that sort of thing. And I found it quite difficult to watch. Um, but it was an incredibly well made film, and I think it's a subject that definitely needs to be touched
Yes.
on. And they kind of did well to kind of be able to turn it into a kind of horror film rather than it just being like a social sort of comment. although it is
Yeah.
both. Um, the seventh one was called the Cornucopia Club. It starts off, it looks like it's black and white-ish, but it's just basically washed out colours. The colours aren't
Okay.
very defined. Uh, there's some good humour, really good. Not overly sure it's horror, but it is about a group of people who basically, the Cornucopia Club is a club of rich, spoilt people who get together to eat every year. They get together once a year to eat every animal on the planet, basically.
Oh yes, yes, yes.
So it's kind of, and by every animal, I mean every
Ev-
animal,
yeah.
including humans. So,
Seems to be a lot of that this year.
yeah, there was a bit of cannibal. There was a lot of cannibalism this year. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Um, and the last one was called the Order of Ra. It's a good idea, and it looked quite good, and it had a bit of humour in it, ish.
Yeah.
But I really wasn't sure what was going on at the start of it, and by the time we got to the end, I really wasn't sure if I knew what was going on then either. To be honest,
Yeah.
it was a kind of let's say it's called the Order of Ra, and it kind of like says what it is really. It's a sort of cult sort of thing, and it just kind of left me a bit like I don't get it. And
Yeah.
maybe I missed something somewhere, but I just didn't get it. Um, but yeah, it was okay. Okay.
Well, yeah. So while you were doing that, I watched a very interesting short actually called Greed and Gore. Um, it was very, very interesting. I will say, um, it definitely lived up to the gore side of it. Um, it was very, very well done. I loved everything about it. I loved the cinematography to it. The effects that we used, the makeup was just was so it was scarily on point, and it's one of them moments where I looked at it and I was like, it should be it should have been longer for me. It just felt like it could have been. I could have watched it forever.
Right.
It was so well done and so well put together. Um, and then there was a very bizarre but very interesting feature length film that was called Love Will Tear Us Apart. Um, it was
Yes.
again, it was foreign film. I think it was Japanese. I think. Um, so I couldn't remember what if it was Japanese or something. But I think it is. Um, which again is it's about this. Try and work. It's about this girl who gets um, teased as she's growing up, and a boy that she was at school with that had the same thing, and she then finds out that people are getting taken out as say as the ones that have bullied her or ones that are in the way, and it finds out that it's actually this boy that she thought passed away when she was younger, and it's all about them doing stuff that is all about them being murderers and then sort of coming together and finding that connection.
Right.
Um, it is again, it's got a mix of humour in it with certain bits. It's typical sort of Japanese sort of humour aspect to it. It's just it is very well done. The effects in it were amazing. The blood effects and the makeup effects were amazingly done. It was such a bizarre sequence of. It was almost like every death in it had to be done a different way. There wasn't one that someone you couldn't. It wasn't one definite where you gone, oh, that happened 10 minutes ago, or that happened a couple of seconds ago. It's
Right.
every single death was completely and utterly different, and it was including someone having the top of their head chewed off with a blender.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, it was very interestingly done. It was I loved it. It was hard for me to follow because of the fact that again it's subtitled and having the dyslexia, I've got trying to keep an eye on everything at the same time. But it wasn't like it was impossible to follow.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought it was amazingly done. And the the sort of the mix in it and as well the sort of twist ending as well. I suppose the way that not, well, it is sort of a twist ending. was well done. I understand the cinematography in it was amazing.
Yeah,
The angles, the camera angles, and the shots that they got were just it blew my mind how they got them. But I really, really liked it.
cool, cool. I will say before we move on to the next bit, Greed and Gore is actually going to be available to watch on the Deformed Lunchbox YouTube
Yes.
channel. It's on there. I don't know if it will probably be up for you to watch by the time we put this out. So I will put a link to that so people can have a look at that and see what they think. Um, so yes, so I then went in to watch a short film called Promin, Promin, which I'm not sure if it's Russian or it was an interesting, a very good idea. I liked the idea. It's a bit like these people are kind of like in a computer simulation or a computer game.
Oh yeah.
They all have to work together to make decisions about a spaceship and about what happens to it.
Okay.
They're all doing it for different reasons. This one guy that it centers on is doing it because he's got to win. He does it to win to save his sister's life, basically. Um, they all kind of do different things, and it shows the effect, or it shows what their decisions are, and it's about their decision making and the infighting between them as a team and that kind of thing,
Yeah.
which is quite good. The ending was a slight letdown for me, but overall, I thought it was a good film. But it wasn't horror; it was sci-fi, and it kind of, you know, but it was good. It was a good film, as it goes. And then I watched this feature film, which was called H.P. Lovecraft: The Old Ones.
Okay.
Had some really good animated titles. Uh, there were some great effects in it, and the makeup was okay. The whole film was a bit odd, and it was just over long. It was kind of everything seemed to drag. The whole thing, the action seemed to drag. I think there was supposed to be some humor in it, but I didn't find it very funny, and it just dragged a bit, and it was okay as a film goes. I mean, it looked all right, and the acting
Yeah.
wasn't bad, but it was just too long. That's a problem I had with a few films in this weekend.
Yeah.
They just seemed to like everything was just dragged out of it and made over long. I think it's a thing where you've got a 50, 45, 50-minute film and you pad it out to make an hour and 20-minute feature film.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it just kind of makes everything drag a bit and it kind of like takes away from everything about it. But
Mm.
it was okay as far as it goes. The effects were really good. There were some really good effects in it, but that's about all I could say.
Yeah.
Okay,
Ooh.
so that
Oh,
was
it was the
all.
afternoon shorts for me
You
then,
did
wasn't
the
it?
afternoon shorts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel really bad about it actually because I was taking notes the whole way through. I did for the rest of the stuff. But this, I don't know. It was really bizarre. It's almost like I got so drawn into it that I forgot to do it. So I
Right.
know what was going on. I remember stuff like that. But it's just it was so bizarre. It's only when I come out afterwards and I'm like, I've got nothing.
Okay.
And it's just one of the things that I sat there and I had everything in my hands to do it all, make up, and I was so drawn in with these. So the first one was called Upheaval, and again, it was the cinematography and it was great. The effects, everything, the story behind it was very well done. It's just I don't know. There's something about this that just sort of I don't want to say made me feel uneasy because it makes it sound like it's bad, but it's that sort of that feeling you got of it's really weird because it doesn't happen to me a lot in horror films, but it's that sort of that feeling where you're watching it and it's sort of that your body starts getting a bit goosebumpy and tingly and sort of,
Right.
but it's sort of the good way because of the excitement of it. And
Yeah.
it's weird because there's not many horror films that do that to me anymore. So it was good to watch this. I'm gonna really butcher this one now. The second one, I can't pronounce it at all.
Syncopat.
Yeah, Syncopat. It's and I think I spent a lot too long trying to pronounce it. Again, I liked all the cinematography, so the effects on it, the acting in it was great. Again, it's one of them films that just sort of drew me in. That it was so weird because like all four of these films, it was just sort of that I don't know that mix of excitement and gore and blood, and they all just did it. Same with Savage, which is the next one that I watched, which I think
Savage.
actually won a couple of awards as well. If I remember,
No, it didn't. Not this
no,
year.
I know it was up again. It should have done, in my opinion. It was again like so Syncopat, is it Syncopat? Yeah, and Savage were French and Spanish, I think.
Right.
One and the other way around. So I was paying attention to the subtitles and watching it, so balancing it out, and it was very well done. And the cinematography, the effects, the acting, the whole location thing, I thought was amazingly done on this. Amazing on it. It's just it's one of them films that I sat there and I watched. It locked me to the point where I was just like I was so focused on it. Um, but the last one of this, it changed my whole concept of them because the other three was like, oh my god, this is intense, this is focus, and then the last one is called the ceremony, where it had again the gore side of it and the horror side of it, but it was also a mix of humour in with it, and it threw
Right.
me completely. But so this one, it's the whole. This one was more of a different take on witchcraft, where oh, hang on.
Huh?
Hello,
You're right. You froze.
oh, don't do this.
Get on. You seized. Are you there? Oh, there you are.
Stupid thing froze up and locked me out and threw me out.
Right. Okay.
All right, so where did you hear me up to?
I can't remember. You were talking about the ceremony.
All right, so yeah, so the ceremony is a different take on the whole witchcraft side of it. So a lot of people think that if you're the way that they've done it on this is the fact that they had to hold this ceremony to kill and then kill a member of a true witch to get their witch powers,
Right.
and it was very English.
Okay.
So the people in it were very upper class, the way that they're
Okay.
very prim and proper and everything. And it was the whole the sort of the humour side of it, trying to make sure that they did all that. But then it was just a twist at the end with the basically that they thought it was all a joke, and then they actually found that this woman that they were trying to sacrifice was an actual witch.
Okay.
So ends up basically butchering a lot of them, and it's just it was the best bit that I loved of it. And all for it, it was the ceremony. It was just one line, and it was after all of this, all of this witch had killed everyone. She just looks dead in the camera and just says "amateurs" and walks off. And as saying, I just think it was very well
Yeah.
done. These four films, they rolled very well together. It wasn't like the fact that they were all contrasting against each other. It was very well fluid, like very well rolled. It fluidly sort of rolled into each other, and I just think these four were very well done and well put together for them
Cool.
section, like this
Yeah.
section. Like the other shorts that I've seen throughout of it, they all had different bits, and you could tell that they were all different things. But
Yeah. Yeah.
this, if someone had, apart from obviously the two that were in Spanish and French, if you had done them in English, you would be able to fit them all together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was so well done. And I was saying the cinematography for all of them, the visual effects on all of them were amazing. And I just don't know. It was so well done for them sort of four sections.
Cool. Cool. And I watched while you were watching those, I watched well, I missed a short film called The Midnight Sleepover Club, because the changeover times was a bit
Yeah,
I needed to go to the toilet. So I missed the short film, which was called The Midnight Sleepover Club. But then I watched a feature film, which was called Watch Me Sleep.
yeah,
Um, it's a very odd idea, but very interesting. Again, it is a bit slow in a lot of places, and it is a bit overlong. But it's basically about this woman well, this woman dies, and her son decides to put a camera in her coffin because he doesn't like her and he wants to make sure she's dead. Um, so and it's the consequences of doing that are quite terrible for him.
yeah,
It's not a bad film. Don't get me wrong, and it gets better towards the end. But there's a whole section in the middle that could have been made a hell of a lot shorter, just
yeah,
because of the fact that it's just him continually checking on this camera, and there are bits of it where hardly anything really happens, so it kind of just drags a little bit. But one of the things that I couldn't work out, don't get me wrong, I understand people need to get up and set their alarms at certain times to get up in the morning. Okay.
yeah,
I have never met anybody that sets their alarm clock as this guy did for 8 minutes past 7. That is such an odd time to set an alarm clock for.
yeah. I can understand sort of like 10 past or but 8 minutes past. Yeah, that's
Eight
such a
minutes past 7. Why would you set your alarm for 8 minutes past 7? It's just a really weird thing. That was just one of the things that stuck in my head right to the
yeah.
end.
It
But
does. It sounds very bizarre.
yeah, no, it was good. It wasn't a bad film, and it's a really good idea.
Yeah.
But it was just too long again. For me, it just dragged a bit.
Mm. Um. Yeah. So the overlaps on these were a bit weird because this again, I I needed the loo for this one, so I missed part of the short for Vestige.
Right.
Um. So I didn't see all of it, but what I did see of it, it was very well done. And Taylor, from what I heard of other people as well, they had very high opinions of it, and it was very well done. Um, but I didn't see the full thing of it. What I did see though was the feature,
Right.
which was called Punch.
Yes. Now I heard a lot about Punch. Lots of people had a lot of good things to say about it.
Yes, and do you know what? Honestly, like I can rate about a lot of films the whole way through this year's version, but Punch, take all kinds of bars and Punch were my favourites of this weekend.
Okay.
Or it's two of my favourites anyway. Now the whole story, the whole premise is this: the fact that it's a young woman who's celebrating her last night, basically being in her hometown before she goes back to college and university and all that, and is stalked by what they all think is a local children's tale that parents tell their kids to sort of go, oh, if you don't behave, Mr. Punch is going to come and get you.
Right.
And that's what they all believe. But then it comes to light the fact that there is actually a Mr. Punch.
Okay.
And it's such a bizarre film that it's actually a bit of a twist because you find out that all the adults or most of the adults in the town or city that they're in, no town that they're in, sorry, are all involved to try and keep the kids in line.
Okay.
Say kids, they're sort of late teens because it makes it sound really butchery. Just say kids, so they're all sort of late teen, and it's sort of keep them in line. And when they don't, that they then the adults then vote every year on who's going to be Mr. Punch,
Okay.
and it falls then to this one guy who takes great delight in killing them all. And again, the different ideas, different ways that they're done, blew my mind because there's certain ones I'm like, I would never have thought of that.
Yeah.
So it was very well. It was weird. It was weird as well because they were less. They were, for a lot of it was filmed in Hastings, a
Okay.
lot of the stuff, but a lot of the big scenes because it was meant to be filmed, yeah, meant to show was actually in Clacton.
Right.
And the scary thing is for me is that I know exactly where they were because I've been there quite a lot. I've stayed there. I used to go there quite a lot. So I'm walking. So I was watching these films, and I'm like, I've walked down that road. I've been to that place, and it's sort of very weird for me because I'm like, pretty
Yeah.
sure I've. There's one point there was someone standing outside the shop having a fag, and I'm like, pretty sure I've stood there doing the exact same thing, and then watching them get killed. I'm like, that's a bit weird. Um,
Yes.
yeah, there were some big names in this as well.
Okay.
There was it's gonna bug me now. There's some like Corrie, was it Corrie or Hollyoaks? No, Corrie stars. There was a couple of other stars from other things in this that are all they're all involved, and it's so bizarre because it's one of the moments you see their face and you're like, no, what? Hang on.
Yeah.
So it's sort of it's weird seeing them in this, and but it's nice to see the fact that there are actors out there that even though they've got a name for themselves, are still doing silly little indie films. Um, I love this as saying the cinematography for it was amazing. The twists and turns that are in it as well, I thought were very well done. There's a couple of weird moments in it as well. Um, they take some acid
Right.
and before this killer turns up, so it's a bit freaky. So, but the way they've done the effect and all that is like the person watching it's taking it as well. So it's weird because you then see all this stuff going on while the killer's around, and it's sort of very weird. But it's very very well done, and I love this film. And everyone, from what I heard of everyone this weekend, or the weekend, they said that they loved this as well.
Yeah, I had a lot of people saying a lot of good things about it. It
Yeah.
sounded interesting. It sounded like a lot of people were really into it.
Mm.
Cool. Okay. I then watched the Cheap Thrills Block One. These are selection of films made for less than £1,000. The first one of these was an animated, black and white animated film called The Blood on Me.
Yeah.
Very interesting, very, very well made. It is a werewolf story based
Okay.
around the building of a supermarket
Yeah.
on what some people reckoned was sacred ground because there were standing stones on it and all this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there's a forest behind it, and it's kind of like um you got that going on and a demonstration about that going on, and then you got these people are being killed, and you get this detective trying to investigate the killing, and
Yeah.
then obviously you got the werewolves involved, and that sort of thing. It was really well done. It was a very interestingly made little cartoon. The animation wasn't hugely sophisticated, but it worked really, really well
Yeah.
with the sort of story it was. It made it kind of almost like a, I don't know, it was almost like an animated documentary in a way, but it was a drama. It was really good. I really liked it. Um, the next one was called The Pencil, which fantastic cinematography, really, really good. I really liked it. It was an interesting, if not completely original idea. The idea of it's like this artist is doing painting and she finds this pencil, which has kind of got a gift or a curse, depending on the way you look at it, which is that when she draws things with the pencil, they come to life
Yeah.
or
Okay.
they
Yeah.
appear. But then it's also got a rubber. So,
Okay.
there's a two-edged thing on there. The effects were really good. The effects were great on it. And I really
Really
liked it.
liked. Yeah.
Huh? I thought it was really good. Um, the next one was called Knock, 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 with the last
Okay.
one in brackets. Very funny. I really, really like this film. It's basically this guy is sitting in his living room and this demonic spooky door appears in the middle of the living room and his the door goes knock knock, and he says, "Oh yeah, demonic door in the middle of the living room. You expect me to get up and go and answer it, do you? You do know you're not in a doorway. You're in the middle of the room." And he starts having this conversation with, but then he tries to. He says he's a demon hunter, and he tries to get rid of the door, but he does he does his this thing to get rid of the door wrong, and what it actually does is it locks the door in place for like 6 months or something. I can't remember how long it is. So he's got to live with this demonic door in his living room. But it was really good. It was really well done. Very, very funny. I really liked it. And there was a film which I didn't, it was called Sister. It was like Sis hyphen Ter,
Yeah.
SAS hyphen TER. But I didn't realize that was what it was called at first, because the first thing that came up was a thing that said this film is cursed. So I thought, is that the title of the film? It was a very, very odd film. It was done in a sort of found footage sort of style,
Yeah.
some of it, but not all of it. Um, it was very odd. And my problem was it was all a bit kind of arty farty. It was a bit kind of like so much of it was there, it was style over substance, and
Yeah.
I just left with you. I had no idea what the film was about. To be honest, it was a kind of like, what's going on?
Yeah.
No idea. And it was all just like, it looks really nice, but what's it about? What does it mean? Don't really
Yeah.
know. Then there was a film which for me was possibly the worst film I've seen the entire weekend. It was called Curse of Frankenbite, animated humor, some of which was funny-ish in a couple of places. It was about somebody wanting to make a video of a non-wedding, a wedding that didn't happen, and about the aggravation they go through to actually make this video. And I think the person that was making the video, that was telling him what to do, there was an editor, and then there was somebody telling them how to put everything together. They wanted it put together. And I think the guy who was telling them how to put it together was supposed to be Simon Cowell. There was a woman in part of it who was talking who definitely sounded like Janet. She was supposed to be Janet Street Porter, but it
Okay.
was not great. The animation was really kind of basic and not brilliant. It was too long, not horror, and not very funny.
Yeah.
So it just kind of didn't work on any level for me at all.
Mm.
So the one after that was Sunday Driver, which it's not my sort of humour, but it was amusing. So,
Yeah.
but it was a funny thing. It's about a lad driving. It's about road rage and all this kind of thing. It's got a pretty good ending to it, and there's some amusing parts in it, and I could
Yeah.
see that it would why people would find it funny, but it wasn't really my kind of thing. But it doesn't. It was a good film.
Yeah.
Then there was a film called Newsgrid, which was an interesting idea. It's about a guy um, who takes films of different things, then gives them into these people called Newsgrid, who then supposedly distribute it to news outlets and all this kind of thing. But they don't seem to be doing that with his films, and it
Okay.
kind of ends up with him coming home after having been to see them and
Yeah.
complain about it with blood all over him. It was okay, but it was a bit flat. It didn't really go anywhere. Um, then there was a film called Yellow, which was well made, but it wasn't a very nice film. It was about a guy who murders prostitutes, which is bad enough itself. But for me, there was far too much emphasis on the sex and prostitute
Yeah.
rather than the murder.
Okay.
So it was almost like watching murder porn. You know,
Okay.
you know what I mean? It was just a bit, didn't really do it for me.
Yeah.
Right, there you go.
Well, as everyone's got their own kinks, haven't they? But so I was doing. I went to see. I was in the other film. So I watched a very bizarre short that was called Bisected.
Right.
Was it? Was it Bisected? Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. Again, it's very hard to actually describe. Really, it's one of the. There's a film that sort of, I don't know, confused me a lot, and I don't know if that's because I just didn't understand what's going on or what. But I just don't know. It was. I found it very hard to put it into words
Right.
of what I thought. But the cinematography was great on it. The effects were good, but I found it hard to just sort of put into words.
Okay.
Um, Now the feature that I watched, I'm still not 100% sure what on earth was going on.
Okay.
It's a film called He Never Left, and I don't know. There was a couple that were on the run,
Right.
end up at his motel, and they're supposedly being targeted by this notorious killer that's called Paleface. Um, and then you see these two cops that are talking about it and chasing them down, and they're talking about it in a diner, and everyone else around is like, "Oh my god, he's back!" And it's just there's a lot of to and froing, and I get the fact it's meant to tie together, but it felt like something was missing to tie it together.
Right. Okay.
Um, Saying that it tied it up a little bit at the end, I suppose, to sort of they talk about how this guy became a killer, like the actual killer became a killer. But I don't know, it was such a bizarre way to do it
Mm.
because it was almost like he was telling the guy's story in reverse. You
Right.
know, we've watched Halloween where they talk, the Rob Zombie one where they talk about Harry became the killer and then what happened to him as a teenager.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this one, it was the reverse. Is what he was doing now. Then it talked a little bit about what he was like when he was younger and then how he became it. And it was very bizarrely done. I'm saying the effect of it though, were mate good. Um, the storytelling for me, I think could have been done a little bit better, but I don't know if that's again because of the fact that it's the way that I was feeling with it, or I just didn't understand it. But um, it was very like people tend to like it. I just don't. It wasn't just my cup of tea though, really.
Fair enough.
Which is a shame. It's no taken away from the film, but it wasn't my cup of tea.
No. Fair enough. Okay. So on to the last late night things. I went in now. I started watching. They had a short film called The Foreboding Fractured, and it looked really good. The acting was a bit rough, but it was okay. But it was kind of like a scary campfire story, or that's where we got to. But the problem with it was um, the sound went out of sync.
Sorry, what?
The sound went out of sync.
Oh, okay.
So it was a bit difficult to watch because the sound was out of sync. And then they tried to cure that, and it all went completely wrong. So they stopped it
Oh,
because the
okay.
sound stopped for a while.
Yeah.
When they put it back on, it was completely out of sync. So they stopped it and they started it again, and it got to the same point and did exactly the same thing. The sound went out of sync. So they stopped it and they said they were going to show it again. Now, I don't know if they showed it at a time when we weren't watching something because I didn't see it again. So I don't know
No.
quite what happened. What I will say is that the trailer for the main film was shown, and that looks really good. There's some really good stuff on the main Romford Film Festival. I don't so have a look out for the trailer for that.
Yeah.
But then the feature film was a classic film called Cannibal Apocalypse. Now, this was shown as part of celebrating the life of Giovanni Lombardo Radici, who
Yes.
was one of the guests at last year's festival, who sadly has since died.
Yeah,
Um,
he played not actually that long ago, was it?
no. Now, I mean, the actual print, the actual film quality for it for this the age of this film, the film quality is absolutely brilliant. It's really
Yeah,
good. Um, it's some really good effects. The actual storyline and some bits in it, the way they talk, some of the things they do haven't aged as well as the quality of the film.
yeah.
But that's just, watching old movies, sometimes you see things and go, really? Did people talk like that then? Really? Did they do that? Um, but it's interesting because it's cannibalism, but it's spread in the same way as later on was used to spread zombies. It's spread through bites. People who get bitten start wanting to eat flesh,
Okay.
which is interesting. Um, there are a couple of kind of strange things in it. It's like guy gets a bite on a finger, and somebody else gets bitten on their leg, and they turn really quite quickly. But
Yeah.
then the guy at the beginning gets bitten on his arm, and he doesn't turn until right, like, 3/4 of the way through the film, and you go, "Hey, how does that work?" Um, And there were a couple of things like there was a girl in cinema who got her neck bitten, who gets taken away in an ambulance, and you never hear her about her again. Whereas all the other characters who've been bitten turn into cannibals and end up having to be killed. So it was like sort of what what happened to there? But it's a great film. It's a classic film, and it's a really good film of its type. I
Yeah.
was happy with this because of the fact that I've seen a few of the cannibal films, the Italian
Yeah.
cannibal horror films, but I hadn't actually seen this one, so it was really nice to watch it. It was really quite cool. I really enjoyed watching it.
Mm. Well, my late night session was started off with a short that was called Stockholm by Night,
Right.
um, which again confused me when I first watched it because my brain automatically went to Stockholm syndrome. I'm like, what's that got to do with night? But no, I was like, the way it was is, it was a, from what I can gather, because it was a bit hard to fully understand, there was a group of vampires, I suppose, that were delivering blood to certain people. And this person only liked to drink from someone that was sexually aroused.
Okay.
And they do that, and it's all about her getting the blood and then delivering it to this person. And um, obviously, they're not fully well off, so they haven't got the money to do it all properly. And but so the people that are delivering it are a bit more, they'll get what they can take.
Right.
So they end up doing that, and it's this one guy who's a bit of a sort of he's a bit like a junkie to it. So he's sort of, and it's about his cravings and stuff like that. It's very well done. There's a lot of special effects in it that aren't just blood and gore. There's a lot of like say like visual effects that have done through CGI computer and stuff like that. But it's very well done. It's and the cinematography to it done to it. Uh, the acting was amazing as well, and the effects that we used for the acting and the way that it was done and like the sort of blood gathering and all that was done very well done. So it wasn't like obvious in your face, but you know what was happening, but it was
Yeah.
slightly off screen.
Okay.
So it was very well done like that. Um, Now the feature that I watched, for me, I found it hard because of the subject that it was about, but that's just because of my personal stuff that's gone on. And it was a film called Taped Up Memories.
Right.
Now, it was made. It's a found footage film about this. There are four cousins that are basically recording their last trip away before one of them goes off to because it was set in 2003, so it's meant to be before one of them goes off to Afghanistan.
Okay.
And the family's arguments between some think he's a good thing and they're proud of him and it's their patriotic thing, and some that are like, well, really, we shouldn't be there. We shouldn't need to. You shouldn't need to go and put your life at risk. It's about their travel and going through that. And it's jumping through them, talking to other people, and then they pick up the hitchhiker who's got a military past and is a bit loopy, and it's all about they show him these fan footage videos of his sort of descent and then him hunting them and everything like that. But for me, obviously, it's a bit harder for me to watch because of the Afghanistan thing. I know people that have lost their lives over there.
Yeah.
I've been there and had their argument of we shouldn't have been there, we should have gone. So it was a bit, the subject matter was a bit hard for me to watch, but it was still a very good film. Um, the way that it ended was a bit weird. Now, I found out afterwards that there was a follow up to it that was then shown on the Friday, which again I missed because of the fact I wasn't, which I think you said you saw.
No, I didn't actually. I
No.
didn't see that one. No.
But
No.
yeah, so there was a follow up to it, which is meant to be the sequel
Okay.
shown on the Friday. But it was very weird, and it was, don't get me wrong, the way it was done, the filming of it was done, but
Yeah.
it kept jumping backwards and forwards. Unless you're paying attention to the day and the timing of it in the corner, it was a bit hard to follow
Yeah.
in places. But it was still a good film. But for me personally, it was just a bit hard to watch.
Yeah. I get that. I get that. Okay, well, that was the end of day one. Now, the other, I mean, we will give these people shouts out at different times. We met some fantastic people, especially want to mention Chad and Thomas, who
Yes.
came from Real, and they have their own film festival called Rhyller Thriller. Sorry,
Yeah, Rhyller Thriller.
Rhyller Thriller. So watch out for that. We will put links up to all these things and that's something nice, really, really nice guys. We saw them all weekend. We had a great laugh with them. Had some great
Yes.
fun chatting to them about the different films and about what they were
Well,
doing.
the best bit
They,
about the best bit of me for the weekend was the fact that they called you their festival dad.
yeah, called me their festival dad, which was quite nice.
Yeah.
They were lovely guys. They really were, and it'll be really nice to see them again at some point.
Yes. So
So,
we got we got welcome. Said we're welcome to go to there anytime. Obviously, so it's difficult to get to a night, but for us, just being able to talk to them, have a laugh, and have that connection, be able to say on this the fact that they're doing that, and
yeah,
it's just enough for it. And saying they're great guys. I hope
absolutely.
they're full of what they're planning on doing. And from what I can gather, from what I've seen and what I've spoken to them about, they've got so much planned and so much in store for anyone that goes to it. So go along and have a laugh with them.
Yes. The Sciforror Film Podcast.